Welcome friends to another r/AmITheJerk video. Now I don't mean to be a jerk, but could you go ahead and hit the like and subscribe buttons down below? That said, our first story of the day is by Salty Enthusiasm 5986. Am I the jerk for telling my sister that her wedding will never be that important to me? My sister's getting married, and I'm a bridesmaid. The dresses she picked for the bridesmaids were a shade of light orange and pink tones. I'm not a fan of pink at all, but it's a dress. I can handle it. As usual in every wedding, if you're a bridesmaid, you're expected to pay for the dress. The dress cost $150. That already for me is a huge sacrifice. Paying $150 for a dress I'll never wear again. I have some visible hand and arm tattoos. I have a back tattoo, which will be visible because the dress is backless, and my hair is brown with some pink highlights. My sister demands that I dye my hair brown and get rid of the pink highlights. She also demands that I cover my tattoos with body makeup because she wouldn't like having me with pink hair and tattoos in the wedding pictures. And the bridesmaids are supposed to look classy, and if I have pink hair and tattoos visible, people will focus more on my crazy style than the bride and the groom. I told her I'm not doing any of that. The conversation went like this. The sister/bride said, "What do you mean you're not? You bought a dress you hated and you have an objection on temporarily hiding your tattoos and dyeing your hair? It's not like you can't dye your highlights back after the wedding's over. Try to understand where I'm coming from." I say, "You knew I had dyed hair and tattoos when you asked me to be a bridesmaid. This is how I love myself, and it's insulting how you expect me to change myself like this so you can have your picture-perfect wedding. I bought the dress because it's a dress. You expect me to be someone else for the day? This is how I am, and I've been like this for years. Why are you suddenly surprised?" She says, "I didn't think my own sister would throw a tantrum over freaking tattoos and freaking hair. It's my wedding, so yes, I want it to be perfect. And you either go with it or you're out of the bridal party." I say, "I'm out then. Your wedding is not that important to me to lead me to a point of changing myself. You either accept me like this or you don't. Don't expect me to change because you're scared of not having a classy wedding because of me. Blessings." Since then, my parents and my brother have called me and cursed me out for not honoring my sister's wishes. Am I the jerk? So as always with this subreddit, you get to judge whether or not OP was being a jerk. Categories being they're the jerk, not the jerk, everyone's a jerk, no jerks at all, or not enough info. In this case, I would say that OP's definitely not the jerk. OP clearly said that that's their identity, that's who they are, that's how they love themselves. The sister, wedding or not, perfect day, whatever, they don't deserve the right to say, essentially, you need to change the way you are if you want to come to my wedding. If they were that concerned about it, they should have brought it up to you in person privately and expressed their concerns before ever inviting you or to the point where you bought the bridesmaid dress. I think OP's not a jerk. What do you guys think? Do you think it's acceptable what the sister said? Should OP have gone along with it and dyed their hair, covered their tattoos up? Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Our next story is by Throwaway Christmas 31. Am I the jerk for telling my wife she ruined Christmas? I'm an atheist, my wife is religious. My parents are split, and I grew up with a terrible dad. I told myself that when I have a kid, that I don't want to be anything like him. Christmas is one of the only holidays I care about. It's when everyone's around family and are happy. I wanted my kids to have these moments. My wife says that holidays like Christmas or Halloween are pagan, and we aren't allowed to celebrate them. I tried giving kids candy one year for Halloween, and she became upset. We both agreed that when we had a kid, we would start celebrating Christmas for at least a few years. We both celebrated as kids. Our daughter was born this year, and we planned Christmas. Her mother visited us last week. When I told her how we were doing Christmas this year, she made a face and went, "Ugh, that pagan holiday." We all went to the store and got a tree, lights, and her mother even bought us a reindeer decoration. After that day, I noticed my wife seemed indifferent about Christmas. Yesterday, I started to set up the tree. I was having trouble and asked for help. She said jokingly that she wasn't helping. Eventually, I asked again for her help, and she wouldn't come near the tree. I asked if she was serious, and she replied, "Yes, you're doing Christmas, so you do the tree." I asked if she was at least going to do the lights or even touch the tree. She said no to both. We started arguing, and she basically said she never wanted to do Christmas to begin with, and she was allowing us to have a tree. I got upset and said I would be returning everything. I took the tree down and threw it back in the box. She asked what I was doing, and I yelled that she ruined Christmas. She told me to leave the reindeer her mother bought. I returned everything else. The next day, I said that she lied to me by agreeing to do it with me and then not wanting to participate. I also blamed her for allowing her mother to influence her. She got upset at me for calling her a liar and thinking her mother had any influence, then left. She texted me that I misunderstood her and she would have done the lights once I did the tree. I called her a liar and reminded her that she told me no when I explicitly asked her if she would help with the lights or even touch the tree. She came back and I told her that she ruined such an important family memory that I wanted to make for us. And just because you put up a tree doesn't mean you now believe in a different god or whatever. I reminded her that I do things I don't believe in all the time for her. Church ones, prayers, etc. And the fact that she won't even go near a tree is crazy. At this point, I started crying. I've never cried in front of her and I almost never cry in general. She then offered to help with the lights, but I'd still have to do the tree myself. I said that it was too late and that the memory was ruined. I told her this was important to me years before we even had a baby. This actually might be one of the rare times where everybody might be a jerk here, or maybe even not enough info. Because this takes place over a long period of time where it's unclear to the extent of what discussions they had before reaching this point regarding OP's desire to have Christmas as soon as they had kids. Like, was this something that fundamentally the wife knew was so important to OP? But this also might just be everyone is a jerk here because both sides have very clearly differing opinions. From the get-go, the wife was pretty clear as far as how they felt about Christmas and Halloween. Is she obligated to pretend that she likes the holiday when it goes against her beliefs? I don't think OP's necessarily a jerk for getting worked up about it and disappointed, but I also think there's just a lot more to this story. I'd love to hear what you guys think in the comments down below. Our next story is by Throwaway Givings. Am I the jerk for ruining Thanksgiving? I, 30-year-old female, met my boyfriend, 30-year-old male, 3 years ago. Before me, he was together with his high school sweetheart. They fell out of love and broke up. A year later, we started dating. His mom, however, was still heartbroken about it. I was very understanding and thought she needed time to get to know me. The ex basically grew up with them and they saw her as a part of the family. For the first year of my relationship, his mom would call me ex's name until boyfriend got angry once and told her to be nice. She laughed it off and said it was just a habit. After that, she started calling me the wrong name. In example, Janet instead of Jenny. I corrected her a couple of times, but she seemed to like hurting me, so I ignored it later. My boyfriend has 2 sisters, and a couple weeks before Thanksgiving, we were invited to a barbecue at the older sister's house. I was in the kitchen with my boyfriend's mom, the sisters, and one of their husbands. The older sister then talked about how my boyfriend praised my cooking to her husband, and the mom was listening. She then out loud said, "Sure, why don't we let Janet make the turkey this year?" The sisters giggled and looked at each other, and I said, "That's a great idea." I didn't tell my boyfriend what happened. On Thanksgiving, we went to his mom's house with the usual just wine and dessert. She was shocked. Everybody was shocked. I said, "What? I thought Janet's bringing the turkey." There was yelling, crying, and then we got kicked out. My boyfriend is so angry with me, he hasn't talked to me since. I think it's over, to be honest, but I still don't think I did anything wrong. Did I? This is a tricky one because the mom is definitely being a jerk, and this is some good revenge kind of, but I think OP's still a jerk because I feel like that's not the time to pull it. Going and leaving the holiday without the turkey and kind of messing up plans for other people. I like it from a revenge standpoint for sure, but I do think it's still a jerk move. This next story is by Depressed Side 3077. Am I the jerk for breaking my promise to my husband and letting others meet our newborn before him? I, female, 25, moved away from my town into my husband's, male 32, hometown after we got married. The main reason is because he suffers from a medical chronic condition and needs to be near his family. I was pregnant with our first baby and was nearing my due date when my husband had to travel out of town for work for 2 weeks. Because of this, he couldn't be with me in the delivery room, which wasn't expected. I wanted to ask Mom to come be with me, but he assured me that his family are there to help, and I shouldn't be worried. He then made me promise that I don't let anyone see our son for the first time in person before him, besides his stepmom, who was supposed to be there for me, and I agreed. His stepmom was with me when I went into labor, but she stayed away since she's the type that doesn't get too involved and keeps her distance. She's also the I don't do diapers type, meaning she doesn't offer to help with the baby, and I shouldn't be expecting it. She dropped me and my son off at home and asked that I only call if there's an emergency. I felt helpless and I asked my neighbor for a few neighbors but needed real help with the baby. So I called my mom. She knew I'd just given birth and asked if she could come help me, and she drove 4 hours to come stay with me. She helped out tremendously and I'm so grateful for that. My husband stayed away for a few more days, then came home. Once he saw my mom, he got so upset, repeatedly saying I broke the promise that I made him by not letting others meet our son before him, and I explained that I needed help. And he brought up his stepmom, but I replied that she dropped me off and left. That's it. Besides, he and mom are on good terms. I didn't get why he was mad she met her grandbaby, which was inevitable. He said it wasn't about mom since it could have been anybody else, but it was about me disrespecting his wishes and breaking the promise I made. He reminded me that he's also the parent and he gets a say too. At this point, I said he was overreacting, but he replied that I forever tainted the memory of his son's birth and broke his trust and proved to him that my word is worth crap now. Mom tried to give us space, but I said she did nothing wrong. She came to help after her stepmom left, so I can't be blamed for asking for help. He told me to stop giving him excuses and admit I wronged him with what I did, and then started avoiding me and just kept focusing his attention on our son. He keeps acting cold towards me, calling me a selfish promise breaker and expecting me to make it up to him. He wanted an apology, but I haven't given him that yet. OP is definitely not the jerk here. First of all, what's the husband worried about? Their kid isn't some bird that, when they first open their eyes and set their eyes on somebody, that's who they're going to say is their parent forever. Secondly, if your wife is going into labor and you want to be supportive, you need to set them up with the resources they need to get proper help till you're back. Your stepmom that barely cares enough to get them to the hospital and back home, that's not enough. Although OP did make a promise, they were struggling with a newborn baby at home. If you're gonna be that hung up over your spouse's mom, who you're on good terms with, coming to save the day, then I'm concerned about the health of their relationship going forward, honestly. And our final story of the day is by AmITheA. Am I the jerk for telling my boyfriend that he should have covered up his tattoos if he wanted any respect from my family? My boyfriend and I have been together for almost 2 years. We're polar opposites, but managed to work through our differences in the past. For some context, he's almost 90% tattooed, up to his neck, and comes from a difficult background, to put it mildly. Today, he's employed and doing well for himself, but his upbringing was quite rough. I wouldn't describe myself as posh at all, but I come from a family where image, looks, and your accomplishments matter. However, I'd say I'm a little more casual than them. A few months ago, I finally got the courage to introduce him to my family. This was a huge deal to me, and I told him that first impressions would make or break everything. I told him that he'll cover his tattoos, no ifs, ands, or buts, because my parents are super old-fashioned. I bought him an outfit for the night to ensure he'd look presentable and classy. We had a practice run, and I told him what he should or shouldn't say, how to talk, how to address any of my dad's concerns, etc. At no point did he ever show any enthusiasm, so that was a bad sign. Fast forward to the dinner. It was an absolute disaster. Yes, my parents and sister were a little critical, but they're like that with any guy I date. My boyfriend was so pissed that he purposely unbuttoned the top of his shirt so you could see his tatted neck. Of course, that offended my parents and a huge argument ensued. Not only were they telling him that he's not good enough for me, they were telling me how disappointed they were. It was a nightmare. To make it worse, my boyfriend told him that I like his tattoos, which I do, but was just adding fuel to the fire, and that it didn't matter what they think. They told him to leave. It goes without saying that my parents have zero respect for him now. It was already difficult to convince them that he's much sweeter than he may appear. My mom's been hysterical asking why I'm having intimate relations with someone who looks like they belong in a prison. He's not a criminal. I've been guilt-tripped and made to feel like complete crap, all because he chose to wreak havoc. A couple days ago, we were arguing and I told him that he should have hid his tattoos if he wanted any respect from people like my family. He was hurt and said that it's messed up that I want him to change to gain respect from them. He even claimed that I'm obviously embarrassed to be associated with him and not even worthy of respect in his eyes. None of that's true, just saying. After that argument, we haven't talked much. So am I the jerk for telling my boyfriend that he should have covered his tattoos if he wanted to establish a level of respect my parents could work from? It's not that they bother me. I think he's crazy attractive, tattoos or not. But he knew that my parents would freak out. OP is definitely the jerk in my eyes. If you're going to seriously date somebody, you can't be putting them down or trying to make them cover up things that are truly them just to make your parents think of them better. At some point, you're gonna have to show that this guy had these tattoos all along anyways. Why form that relationship between your boyfriend and your parents on a bed of lies of who they actually are? You should be celebrating him and his tattoos. You should be fighting for him and his tattoos. If he's a good dude and he's attractive and your relationship is great, it shouldn't matter what your parents think, and you should be at bat fighting for them so your parents realize it, not try to cover it all up and hide it. Sad to say, I think OP is the jerk. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. So of all these stories I've read today, which is your favorite and why? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you haven't yet, if you could like and subscribe, that would mean a lot to me. Whatever you do, whether it's liking, subscribing, turning notifications on, all of it helps grow this channel, and I appreciate the heck out of it. So until next time, I'll see you all tomorrow with some more stories.